viewers, to another episode of Osoroshii Saturday. Tonight we explore all sorts of Yurei, Obake, and Youkai. Monsters, myths, legends, and vengeful spirits that have been written about all throughout Japanese history. Through its books, logs, and monogatari, we delve into the dark spirits and the vengeful monsters that haunt those who unrightfully murdered them, betrayed them, or sent them to an early grave. We discover whether or not some of these myths or legends are just that, or perhaps more. It's 10 o'clock. You're an 11-year-old who just got off of Juku, Japanese cram school, a school that's after elementary school at night. You're walking home alone when a woman in a surgical mask approaches you and asks, "Am I beautiful?" What do you answer? If you say no, right away you're chopped in half by scissors. Scissors that can split through your skin and are twice the size and twice the girth and twice as sharp as any normal set of scissors. If you say yes, she removes the mask to reveal a face more horrific than anything you've ever seen, for it's split from ear to ear in a wicked smile, one that asks one more time, "Do you think I'm beautiful?" It's at this point that you have to ask yourself, do I say yes again? Or this time, do I tell the truth and say no? No is instant death. Yes also results in a brutal stabbing of your own face with a pair of scissors. This pair of scissors will slice the same smile, the same grin, the same wicked split in your own mouth from ear to ear. This is Kuchisake Onna, the split-mouthed woman. It's a tale I've told before on this channel and this show, but it's one which many people wrote back saying, wait, in my prefecture, the story's different. She gets cut by a different way, or her face is not mutilated by scissors, it's mutilated by acid. In other ones, people write about a jealous husband who used a knife to cut her face apart. Well, the thing is, the story actually dates back as far as the Heian era, long ago, when a story revolved around a jealous husband who did indeed cut the face of a woman who betrayed him by cheating on him. He mutilated her face and her body, and she came back as a vengeful spirit that eventually cut his face in the same manner. Now, that myth, that urban legend of the time, carried itself up until today's era, and it has multiplied into a dichotomy of forking paths that has worked its way into the prefectures all over Japan, each having their own unique story of Kuchisake Onna. In some, she's a lab assistant who is involved in a horrible accident. Acid spilled on her face and it burns her from ear to ear, leaving her with a Joker-like smile. In another one, the story's updated, and this time it's a conflict in a barbershop where her face gets cut up with scissors. This one eventually became one of the most popular ones in the sense that it was made into a feature film known as Kuchisake Onna, or Split-Mouthed Woman. You can actually check this movie out online. It's so-so, not the creepiest thing I've ever seen, but it tells a pretty good story, and if nothing else, the imagery is pretty well done. On top of that, there is a little bit of reality in this story. You see, in 1974, there was a coroner's report. In this report, a woman who was chasing small children around the neighborhood that she lived in was hit by a car and violently killed. This was due to her own kind of schizophrenic urge to go after these kids and attack them randomly through her village. When this happened, her face was split in such a horrible manner that it was reported in the coroner's report. In doing so, this gave her the image of split-mouthed woman, the fact that she went after children, the fact that her mouth was split. And in fact, the news spread so quickly and so fast that kids in that ward and district started to have to be walked home by teachers at their schools, by parents to their houses each day after school ended. There's where you see myth becoming a reality. Our next story deals with what is called an Onryo. An Onryo is a vengeful spirit that comes back to kill whoever murdered them unrightfully. In this story we cover the Onryo known as Oiwa. Now, Oiwa was a simple girl who was in love with a samurai. They had grown up together in the same small village, and one day she was happy to find out in her teenage years that he would propose marriage to her and they would be forever together. Now, the samurai lover that she had was a poor man. He didn't have much, but he was a samurai. He did protect her, he did keep the family going, and he did take good care of her no matter what. On top of it, he did do his job as a husband, and that's all she cared about, was having a husband who took good care of her in a happy family life. Unfortunately, as things went on, money became far and far more scarce. Things became desperate. So desperate, in fact, that even food became scarce. Now, both of them were scraping just to get by each day, just to survive. Oiwa became somewhat desperate and disillusioned that her husband would ever find any good work as a samurai. Then one day, luck found Oiwa's husband. Unfortunately, she wasn't along to know. It was a village woman who was rich, fantastically rich in fact, and her name was Oume. Oume was a rich woman with a great dynasty behind her that could make Oiwa's husband a very wealthy man. Knowing this, he delighted in the fact that he could easily seduce her and that she easily fell in love with him. On top of that, he began to cheat on his wife, Oiwa. One day, Oume's father came to the samurai and said to him, "Oh, I wish you could marry my daughter. It is such a shame that you are already married." He gave him a wink and a hint, a tip of the hat if you will, that let him know it wouldn't be horrible if an accident befell Oiwa. That night, her samurai husband came up with an awful plan. He put together a poison that would kill her in her next batch of food. That night, both sat down, and the samurai was quiet as Oiwa began to dig into her food. She asked what troubled him, but he did nothing more than scold her and tell her to eat, for she was pregnant and would soon have a baby. She needed to be strong, he said, for the baby, and eat. She did. Quickly, she was ill. The effects took hold, and although she did not immediately die, her face became deformed. Her hair fell out, and her left eye slowly drooped and sagged as the dripping muscles inside of her socket could no longer hold it straight. No, she did not die that night from the poison, but afterwards, she was horribly deformed, a mangled mess of beauty, nothing but a shell of what she once was. Now it was finally her husband's chance to leave her. Only she wouldn't die. She laid in bed, withering away, groaning, yelling for her husband to come take care of her. Finally, he could do nothing more. He took her and threw her off of a cliff, allowing her body to be battered by the rocks below, hiding the evidence of the poison. He scooped up what was left of her and paid for the most fabulous funeral he could, knowing his money worries would soon be over. But that night, as he went to bed, he looked over at the lamp next to him. A face was slowly emerging in the lamp. That face was the face of his own wife, deformed, mutilated, destroyed by the poison, the same drooping eye hanging out. It began to chant in an unknown dead language he himself could not figure out, for it was the vengeance of murder that had linked a bridge between death back to the world of life for Oiwa. She was coming for him and he knew it. Screaming, he ran out of his tatami mat room, into the night and into the village. He had to find the town priest. He had to find the town shaman. He had to tell the temple monks for protection. The first person he ran to was a man at a soba stand. "Please, sir, can you help me find the town shaman?" "The town shaman? Who's that?" he said. Turning around, he revealed his face to be that of Oiwa's, distorted, drooping eye, mutilated, drooling. He screamed and ran to the next spot, finally reaching the temple steps. The doors opened slowly and the priest stepped out, shrouded by the hood that covered his face, slowly pulling it back. One more time, Oiwa's face was revealed to him. He screamed and then died from shock. Death had overtaken him, just as fear had taken his life. Our next story is a sweet and simple horror story all about babies, specifically a type called locker babies. If you don't know what locker babies are, well, let me tell you the tale of what one is exactly. You see, when a young mother, well, a mother too young to have a baby, has one that she doesn't want, she goes to the subway. Now you see, in the subway, we have lockers, coin lockers. Those lockers are to be used for if you're on a long trip of travel, or perhaps you take the subway out to a long distance mall and you want to bring a lot of bags with you, but you don't want to carry them around everywhere. I mean, that's kind of a nuisance, let's be honest. Your arms get tired, your back gets tired, your shoulders get tired. How long can you shop when that happens? Not very long. Well, there's sometimes young mothers who have babies and decide to use these lockers for something totally different. You see, not telling anyone that they were pregnant and hiding it from everyone in their family, they take the young unknown baby, stuff it into the locker, put in the coin, close the door, and don't let anyone know. You see, these lockers are left unattended for a very long time. There is a security guard or sometimes a shift manager or a subway eki manager who goes through and checks some of this stuff. But for the most part, those are usually left alone for anywhere from 48 hours to 72 hours. 2 to 3 days to be certain. Going back to check them later, at times, and this is a true story, babies' corpses have been found in these lockers, abandoned by the horrible mothers that gave birth to them. A death secret, unkept, and unknown to anyone in their family. Disgusting? Yes. Horrible? Yes. Deplorable? Insanely. But it gets worse. You see, if anybody does something like this, a curse befalls them. For if they don't tell anyone of what they've done or come to admit the fact or face what they've done, that baby comes back for them. And not just them. Anyone who helped them hide the secret. Anyone who knew and didn't tell. That baby will come back. It will birth its way back out of their canal, and not in a manner that will let them bring life into this world. It will take their life. They will hemorrhage out with what you would consider something odd, like a ghost baby, a spirit baby, a vengeful spirit baby that will birth itself again through a hysteric pregnancy and push its way back out. There's 2 movies based on this called Locker Baby 1 and Locker Baby 2. You can go check those out. Yes, even the men who help them hide those secrets give birth. And I think you can imagine how painful that might be. Right behind me you see the JR line, the Japanese railway, a line taken by many to travel all around this great country. Now, trains, for the most part, are great in Japan, and they've got a huge history behind them, and they are epically known worldwide for being incredibly on time. But there's some horror stories associated with them too. Those horror stories are ones like Teke Teke. For those of you who don't know, Teke Teke is a sad tale. It's about a young girl coming to a brand new city. She's from the countryside and she's not really used to city folk or city life. Actually, she's kind of a bumpkin, really. Kind of one of those girls who grew up pure and countrified and never really got to know the hustle and bustle of the city. So when she makes her way to her first high school ever in Tokyo, well, let's just say she doesn't exactly fit in. That being said, first couple of days, first couple of months, and actually the first whole year is super rough for this girl. Picked on, bullied, made fun of, called a Luddite in this modern world. Well, it doesn't work out too well for her. And she's bullied to a point that one day it's pushed over the line. Literally. You see, they're at the crossing rail for tracks and trains that go over it. There, the bullies push her to the edge. They start scaring her, pushing her closer and closer to the tracks, closer as the train comes. Slowly the gates lower, and they let up a little bit. Maybe they're done with their bullying. Maybe they were just joking. Maybe they were just, well, that's when the biggest shove comes and she flies across the tracks. I think it might do little more than bruise her ego. They find out it intends to bruise more than just that. It in fact cuts her body in two, something the girls maybe didn't have in mind, but are horrified when they finally see. It splits poor girl's body in half, and she is left dying as she bleeds out. The girls run and promise each other to never speak about what happened at the tracks that day. It is a secret kept beyond all that are around them, any authority presence in their life, all teachers, all police, anyone in their neighborhood, and it is a pact among the friends as bullies. Never will they tell of what they've done until one day, one of the girls is going to school early for band practice and a club meeting. She's pretty sure she's going to be the first person showing up that day at about 5 a.m. when in the window on the third floor of the high school, she sees somebody beckoning to her. The girl's silhouette, maybe shadow, and a bit of her appearance can just barely be made out. But she's beckoning her closer. Come on in. We're ready. We're ready. Oh, maybe it's one of the band members. Maybe it's one of her club friends. Who's inviting her in this early? Who's there before her? She's always first. Getting closer, she thinks, that face is familiar. That's somebody I know. She starts to ease up a little bit. Oh, this is a face I remember. It's the girl she killed. It's the girl she pushed over the tracks. But that's impossible. She's dead. She's been dead for a long time. But there she is, beckoning. She's smiling. She seems nice enough. This is a secret she has to keep. She has to go apologize, if nothing else, to hope that she can keep the secret that she thought happened, the death that she thought definitely had taken place. She runs up the stairs to find the girl beckoning to her was nothing more than a torso above the window, and no legs lie beneath her. She had been balancing herself on the windowsill. She drops down and begins to amble on her elbows across the hallway. In Japanese, the sound of someone crawling on their elbows is teke, 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 teke. As she gets closer, the girl screams. Making full contact with her body, teke teke rips it apart, making her a doppelganger of her own horrible, deformed, and mutilated body. Eventually, all the girls will follow the same fate in different ways, running into Teke Teke and being ripped apart. But the thing is, after you've heard this story, 7 days later, Teke Teke comes for you. Our final story tonight is one of my all-time favorite yokai, and that is Ubume. I'm just going to go through the tale quick and simple and let you know exactly who Ubume is, because unless you've really gotten into yokai, Onryo, Obake, Oni, you've probably never heard of this one. Ubume, the taker of babies. An Edo-era yokai comes from a woman who apparently died with her baby still in her womb. Fretting that she had never actually gotten to hold the baby, she tore herself out of her grave. She haunted the village side, ripping open the wombs of pregnant women so she could hold their breathing fetuses in her arm like she had never gotten to do. To this day, if a woman dies in childbirth and the child dies as well, Japanese people will cut open the womb, take the child out, and put it in the arms of the womb so that she too does not become an Ubume. Well guys, that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Osoroshii Saturday. I hope you enjoyed our little stroll around this area of town. A very decrepit, dirty little area known as Dobutsu-en Mae.
full of character, let me tell you, but man, this place is fucking dirty and I love it. It's got a lot of old-time Edo-era character, a lot of old-school Yaji who are gritty as fuck, playing mahjong all day, sipping shochu. If you love old-school Japan and you really want to see what the nitty-gritty is like, come down here to Dobutsu and Maya and suck it up. It's layers thick in dirt and grime. Anyway, until next time, I'm Unrested. This has been another episode of Osoroshii Saturday. Write me and let me know what you want to hear in upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed this video, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Osoroshii Saturday.